Hi guys, I hope you're doing okay. So this is kind of just the obligatory annual kind of doomer rant about Christmas and whatnot, and I guess I just want to start by saying, like, it's actually terrifying, like, how recent, like, subjectively, last Christmas season seemed. It does not feel like a year ago used to feel, and I know that lots of people say that, and they say that, like, the subjective experience of, like, the rate of passing of time is proportional to the square root of one's age, but I'm that's kind of difficult to sort of confirm, but for me it seems to be the case, and that's kind of scary, because if you do, like, certain calculations, like I remember I was calculating, like, basically, like, someone who is like if you're going by that rule, like, someone who's in their mid-20s is subjectively halfway through their life already, which is kind of scary for someone like me who is kind of in that area of age, and yeah, to think that, like, I'm halfway through the subjective experience of existing, assuming I live a typical life expectancy, which might not be true because of you know why. So yeah, that's kind of brutal and kind of terrifying more than anything, and definitely it definitely kind of shows up in my depression and anxiety and related comorbidities that I talked about last time, because it's kind of like, I look back on, like, the past year and I kind of think, like, what's really gotten better? And not much, like, I mean, there are, like, little things that have gotten better, like, I'm a bit more in touch with my emotions, I'm slightly better at putting up, like, sort of, like, communicating and setting clear boundaries with people on a good day, so that's still not, like, 100%, but, I made progress there, in terms of, like, resources and that kind of stuff. Like, not much has changed, I'm definitely not poor, but I'm definitely not, a CEO wagey either. And compared to a lot of people, that does make me feel bad. But I also, like, there are also kind of, like, things that make me feel a little bit better about that. Like, I see in the news, like, lots of people in the UK, especially in my demographic, not just autistic, but also young, and so if you take both those layers, like, the rate of people kind of struggling in terms of mental health, in terms of occupation, in terms of finances, all that stuff, it's quite high, and so I know I'm not the only one, and I know that, like, there are two major factors kind of working against me. One, of course, is being autistic with significant comorbidities, and the other is just not being a boomer, basically, especially being, Gen Z. So, when you take that into account, overall, it's, it doesn't feel too bad. So, but kind of getting back to what I was talking about with, like, Christmas, like, I don't know, like, in the UK, Christmas is quite funny because, like, the toxic positivity thing that I've talked about before, like, it's that on overdrive, and there's a very typical kind of Christmas experience in the UK where, like, you can't really avoid it, but you kind of got like, everywhere is just really busy, and like most people, like unless they're like, you know, getting really drunk at a Christmas market or something, like, or in a pub or whatever, you know, they're not really like, yeah, they seem really stressed, and they're always like, you know, having to go out and like go to the shop again and like queue to go to a till for 20 minutes and stuff. And you know, like having, like, you see people and you stop in the middle of the supermarket and everyone's trolleys crash into each other, and these boomers like, oh, you alright, how's it going, oh, you all sort of ready for Christmas then? And they're like, oh yeah, what are you doing? And I don't know, it's just like, if you live in the UK, so there's a bit of water there, not wind this time, but yeah, if you live in the UK, like, you know what I'm talking about. It's I know, it's quite entertaining, and I was actually saying to my mum this morning, you know, like, it really is absurd, and like, I mean, life in general is absurd, you know, but like, Christmas in itself is a true, like, it's really concentrated, very overt absurdity, and I mean, you can say that about like most cultural you know, phenomena, but Christmas, I think, just because it's so pronounced and so large scale, it's yeah, it's quite remarkable. And you know, I guess, does it have like biological origins? Arguably, yeah, it kind of helps. It's a way to help people cope through seasons where they're like vulnerable to getting symptoms of seasonal affective disorder. So that you know, like the northern hemisphere, particularly like northern Europe and stuff, where it came from. But you know, it's not like it's not essential and stuff. And yeah, to be honest, like, I guess just kind of going back to a more personal thing, like for me, it's pretty much been like almost every Christmas has been less fun than the other ever since I was like a little kid, you know, because every year, you know, it's like, I mean, just becoming an adult and getting old in general, it just kind of sucks, really. I mean, unless you're really lucky, you know, and like you I don't know, you just don't struggle like functioning as an adult. Basically, you don't struggle to get through life and, you know, like have loads of friends and be comfortable and whatever, you know, like be able to be, you know, just be like totally like, you know what I mean. So yeah, when you're not like that, it's it kind of sucks. And I think like a lot of people, they just kind of have to put on a brave face about it. And, you know, to an extent, you know, like, I kind of know that, like, basically, like, I mean, I've already done it a bit, but, you know, like, I really have to mask Max throughout Christmas, if you know what I mean. And, like, sure, I could just be a total chud to everyone and be like, no, Christmas is gay, blah, 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 whatever. But, like, that's just going to cause more problems, you know? And so, you know, when, like, my boomer relatives come round to visit and stuff, I've just got to, you know, like, wear the Xmas shirt, like, Xmas jumper, and, like, you know, like, do a smile and, you know, say the little lines, like, oh, you're ready for Christmas yet? And all that shit, you know, like, like, I kind of know, but, like, you know, like, you got to do that. And so far, I think I've done quite well at it this year, but, it's and you know, like, because part of me thinks, you know, like, people are gonna, like, I don't know, like, yeah, well, you know, they're gonna maybe, like, you know, want to be nicer to you and stuff if you mask for them, and, you know, like, keep giving you presents or whatever. I know that sounds a little bit shallow, but you know what I mean. That's kind of like fundamentally how our brains think about it, and so yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing. But it really does drain you. And I'll be honest, like I've talked before about how debilitating my insomnia can be sometimes. And like last night was really bad. I normally get like, so I'll have like there'll be a few nights a week where I sort of like struggle to sleep. Like maybe I'm up for like an hour or two after I go to bed, kind of drifting in and out of consciousness. But then, like once or twice a month, it can be really debilitating, and I barely sleep at all, come up until like I see the sun starting to rise. And I have a sleep mask now, which someone gave me, which I'm really grateful for, and that really helps a bit to kind of really just to calm my anxiety, and it's good for like sensory management and stuff, so I'm really grateful for that. But yeah, no, it's like it's really bad, and like it can be very difficult to kind of control my my brain sometimes, to be honest, like because I mean, if you have like some like any kind of form of anxiety like I do, like you'll know what it's like when you're lying in bed kind of wanting to get to sleep, and then you're thinking about like that's a social cue that you missed out on last week or last decade or something, or you're thinking about like, oh my goodness, how much am I going to have to mask this week, or like why is time going so quickly, what am I doing with my life, like all those thoughts just on a merry-go-round basically. And the only way to turn that off really is like, I don't know, just to like pop a melatonin or something. And I don't really have any of that at the moment, and I'm kind of skeptical of it, because I know that like what will just happen is like if I take it, I mean, they say your quality of sleep isn't as good anyway, but also like your brain will recalibrate, right? Kind of related to what I talked about in the hedonic treadmill. It'll just recalibrate, and then you'll get less melatonin produced naturally, and then you'll just get back to that baseline of general insomnia. And then if you try and get off the melatonin, then it'll be really bad, and you won't sleep for days. And that sounds like hell to me. So it's very difficult, and a lot of the time, things in life are about really trying to walk that tightrope, and I feel like autism is like you're trying to walk the tightrope, and like someone's kind of wobbling it a bit every now and then, like it's really difficult. So yeah, but I think the main thing that I am worried about at the moment is just time, and it's weird, like people always like are surprised that like I never like really write anything down or have a calendar or anything like that. And the reason why is because like I don't know, maybe this is to do with like my inner monologue or something, but like I have like this like subjective like clear picture in my mind of like of what a calendar looks like, like literally. So it's like an app in my brain almost, and I'm pretty much never late for anything, like unless I want to be. So it's like I'm very organized, and I guess like because my brain kind of uses energy to do that as well, that kind of makes me more tired. But the way my executive function works is like, I don't know, like I would kind of struggle to keep things organized externally, and so having it inside is just kind of what I'm used to. I don't know, maybe that sounds kind of weird, but yeah, that's just kind of how like my existence has been my entire life, to be honest. I don't know, it seems like I'm coming across more positive than I am, than I thought I was. But man, I just kind of, I don't think I'm gonna like necessarily have to dedicate like a second video specifically to talking about comorbidities, because they come up everywhere. It's a big topic, and it's related to lots of other topics that I discuss. So I don't think there's any reason to necessarily, do a series on it, because I already kind of have. and so, yeah, insomnia is pretty horrible, and depression is horrible, and anxiety is horrible, and ADHD stuff, like being very sensitive, and PDA, pathological demand avoidance, all that stuff. Like I've got it all, I'm not even joking. And yeah, but no, it is kind of, like I was kind of saying before, like that comparative factor is really, it really does cripple me, because I know that, like, most people in my age cohort, like, have kind of, what's the word, like, that they've advanced beyond me in many aspects of life, and I see that. And I think something very difficult about Christmas especially is, like, the expectation for socializing. If you don't want to, then you're a Grinch, or which is basically just a boomerism for a chud. And like, I guess, like, that makes it, like, very difficult. And by socializing, by exposing yourself and seeing, like, how far behind you are and how easy everyone has it. And it's especially difficult because at Christmas, like, lots of people, mostly, like neurotypicals, they will try and, it's weird, like, I'm aware of this, but I still get upset about it. But, like, they'll kind of try and, they'll buy all the nice decorations, they'll make their house look as good as possible, they'll get a really perfect Christmas photo with, like, their dog, or, like, their fiance or whatever, and that, but they're like, just make it look all perfect and kind of make it come across, like, even if they don't post on social media, like, when you go and, like, try and talk to them and stuff, like, they make like their house look really nice and all that, and it gives off the impression that they've got it all figured out, and you're the only one who hasn't, and you should feel like shit about that. and it's weird, because it's like, even though I'm aware that a lot of the time people put on a front, or they try and brag, and they try and they try and big themselves up, or, like, show off, even though I know that's true, like, it still makes me feel bad. And I think it's because, like, even if I, like, tried, I'm very sensitive about it, of course, but, it's like, even, I know, like, even if I tried my best, I don't think I could, like, show off as well as them. I think is kind of the thing that gets me. And yeah, no, it's just, it's very difficult. And I think, like, I've kind of, I haven't quite addressed this directly. I mean, I kind of have a little bit, but, like, one thing about Christmas that really sucks is that everywhere's really busy. Not just, like, things you normally do, but, like, people are out and about everywhere, and you're always running into people, and yeah, like I said, you basically are forced to socialize, and there's all these, like, all these, like, kids running around who've had too much sugar, and they're being little shits screaming, and that, like, is really horrible to have to deal with, and, like, be around and worry if they're gonna, like, run into you and all that, it really sucks. It's really annoying, and so, yeah, if you're autistic, Christmas can be kind of dreadful if you're not careful. And so, yeah, I'm just going to try and be careful and, try and be very, not necessarily limit, I guess, but, try and control and be very careful about how much I put myself out there in the sense of, mixing with people and stuff, because it really does drain me. It's not Christmas yet, technically, but it's already, like, really kind of getting to me. So, I just wanted to rant a little bit about that and stuff. I'm still not 100% sure if I'm going to do a live stream on the big day. God, man, I'm not buying into it. It's kind of cringe, but I don't know. If not, then I don't know. I hope you make it through. And if I do, then hopefully see you then. All right. Well, that'll be it. And bye.